Happy New York Wednesday. This is the Let's Go Mets podcast. I am your host, Sam Wu, talking about your New York Mets. Today's episode 9 is titled No Bobby Bonilla Day, No David Wright. All right, you Yankee fans. I know that you just probably want to just rag on the Mets fans of that 25-year deferment monster contract that Bobby Bonilla agreed to back in the late 90s when he was on his second tour of duty with the New York Mets. Let's go back to the late 90s. I believe it was 1999. Mets were in a pennant race. And Steve Phillips made some transactions, getting Bobby Bonilla back, Ricky Henderson. And let's just say the optics didn't look that great when they were caught in the clubhouse allegedly playing cards when the team was out there busting their butt in the pennant race. That didn't look good. Bobby Valentine, the manager at the time, wouldn't have any of it. So the Mets at the time needed to get rid of Bobby Bonilla and that $5.9 million contract before the 2000 season. And I think Ted Berg, he wrote an article about 5 years ago in the USA Today on this day, Bobby Bonilla Day, that the Mets organization actually made out not too bad. Now, there are other deferments out there in Major League Baseball, other players deferring their salaries for more money in the end. But let's dissect this a little bit further. So the Mets had to get rid of Bonilla, but they had a championship caliber team going into the 2000 season. So they had to get rid of that $5.9 million contract off the books. And also, I think there's the factor of Bernie Madoff was meddling in, telling them, probably the Mets ownership, hey, if you spend some of this money with me, you're going to make a lot more. And you just pay Bobby Bo, 1.1 or 1.2 million a year for 25 years, starting in 2010. So that's how it went. Bobby Bonilla agreed to it. Second tour of duty was not that good, well, although I thought the first tour of duty was okay. Remember the Bobby boos? People booing him. He was wearing the earpiece or the thing, what is it, the earpiece in his ears so he can't hear the crowd. But 2000 team, it paid off dividends because some of that money, most of that money was freed up to trade Mike Hampton, the ace at the time, with the Houston Astros, coming to New York. Now the Mets have a 1-2 punch with a southpaw, Mike Hampton, Al Leiter, leading that team. And I don't think the Mets could have made it to the World Series that year had they not picked up Mike Hampton. Also, he was the NLCS MVP, shutting down the Cardinals. Now, I'll tell you what would have been a lot sweeter, and we would probably not be talking about this stupid deferment, had the Mets won the World Series and beaten the Yankees, it would have been a different story. But since we're on the topic, let's go further. After that season, Mike Hampton became the free agent in baseball. And it was, you know what? I think at the time he just didn't want to be in a big city. New family. Although I thought he said a boneheaded thing saying that, hey, I like the school system in Colorado better than New York or whatever. Not in those exact words. So he bolted. And what came with it was a compensatory first-round draft pick, 38th overall in 2001. Well, the Mets selected that kid from Virginia, David Wright. And I wouldn't say the rest is history because I've been reading all the Facebook pages, fan chatter, you know, Bobby Bonilla Day. Look, David Wright had a huge impact in New York. Big impact. But I think one of the biggest impacts he's had that nobody talks about is after his retirement, after a great career as a New York Met, cut short with injuries, spinal condition. But one of the biggest contributions that nobody ever talks about was David Wright helping structure Jacob deGrom's contract extension. The Jacob deGrom coming off of a 10-9 season, but a ridiculous ERA, ridiculous dominance. Just the Mets just couldn't score a run anytime. You know, he was pitching in 2018, 1.70 ERA, 269 strikeouts. Coming off of a Cy Young year, going into free agency, and you get Brody Van Wagenen as an agent turned GM. And, of course, you have Jeff Wilpon in the mix. But it was David Wright that helped out as a special advisor. And Van Wagenen, quote, Wright was officially the most valuable special advisor in history, said the former third baseman. Came up with the final creative deal structure for deGrom's deal. And he helped him sketch out different contract ideas on a whiteboard in his office at the Mets spring training complex in Port St. Lucie. One of Wright's suggestions made the final cut during the contract negotiations between the Mets and deGrom's agent. And then Jacob deGrom signs a 5-year, $137.5 million extension. And the rest is history. Wins another Cy Young. Back-to-back Cy Young. Rookie of the Year. Jacob deGrom. So it's all not that bad. I don't know why people don't talk about this. I think this is great. Yeah, it looks ridiculous. Now, Bobby Bonilla. Now, reading Ted Berg's article, and I'll quote, it's actually he quotes Court Gaines of the Business Insider. He did the math on this deal. Did Bobby Bonilla actually make out from 5.9 to 1.2 million times 25 years? Court Gaines writes that to criticize the deal is not understand that Bonilla gained nothing and the Mets actually came out ahead of the deal. If Bobby Bonilla had accepted the 5.9 million in 2000, invested the entire amount at 8% interest, the original investment would have grown to $104.1 million by 2035. If instead Bobby takes his annual payment and invests with that 8% annual return, he would have made $95.2 million by 2035. More importantly, if the Mets, if they invested the $5.9 million at 8% interest in 2000, that money would have grown to more than $14 million before they had to make a single payment. And that money would continue to draw interest even while they are making payments. To be fair to the Wilpons, they were duped by Bernie Madoff, just like many others. A $50 billion Ponzi scheme that he was running. But right now, there's new Mets ownership on the horizon. And overall, things happen for a reason. I'll enjoy it just because I'm going to be a positive Mets fan. New season on the horizon, we hope. Just on a side note, we took a short break as we started the podcast. I don't know how many podcasts have started during a pandemic, but we took a little break, but we're going to be on more regularly. And we're going to start getting some guests. Check out my previous podcast with JP Hornstra out in LA, Dodgers beat writer. We talked about the DH. If it's, if it's real baseball, is it not? Should they go to the DH, the NL? I guess during a pandemic season, why not? Why not? What do you have to lose? It's a good time to experiment. If you're going to do it now. Well, thank you for joining me on the Let's Go Mets podcast. Glad to be back. 4th of July is coming soon. Till next time, let's go Mets!